It's kind of changed my focus here is that previously I was focusing on just making a particular company a lot better, but now I see that it may be a vehicle towards other things too. And also, I think an attitude of not really allowing or accepting incompetence and putting more responsibility with other people is also something that, is kind of impressed upon me here, even though I've heard it all my life. I think the only price that may be hard to go beyond is at the point of alienating people that are close to me. I don't know if that's a line I would go beyond to achieve success, because that would be kind of against my definition of success. But I think I got a lot of good stuff out of the seminar here.
Okay.
Well, as far as the price I would be willing to pay to accomplish my goals, it's anything that's anything at all within the bounds of the legal, ethical, moral caveat. One of the things I've gotten here is I've just gone through a little different situation. I'm in a situation right now it'd be kind of easy to sit back for a while and cruise, and I've got to go for the bigger goals and keep charging ahead and face the fact that what I've done is not that damn great, and keep going and turn it into something great.
One of the easiest things to do, and I've alluded to it a few times in the last 2.5 days, is that people that have attained some degree of success to sit back on their laurels and pat themselves on the back. And a difficult thing to do is to immediately refocus your energies and go on to do something else. And but I think that he's hit upon it very accurately. Yes, sir.
Listening to you today, I think I've taken a lot of chances in the past, but last few years I've been playing it really safe and comfortable, and being thoroughly pissed off at myself. What you've helped me to do is realize, it's scary. I'm going to be stepping into a whole new field, and the buck's going to stop with me. And I know a lot of people, they're saying, oh, they're great, but it's scary for me. It's not. I'm going to do it, but it's just part of it. I'm just going to have to be scared, but go ahead and do it. Just take full responsibility for the project, and if it goes bad, take full responsibility for it. I guess that's about it. You've turned me into the Dominator.
The Dominator, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, Dan. I had already made a lot of decisions before I came to your seminar. I've been in the same computer business now for about 14 years. I've been in the industry now for over 25 years. And the company is either going to go on the market, or I'm going to give equity to some key employees, let them run it and walk away from it. Prior to your seminar, I had already made decisions to move into a different career in the real estate and retail market area. And I'm going back to Texas to do that, and down in Mexico. So decisions had already been made. So I'm just going forward with what I have to do. I know exactly what I have to do. The mentors that you talked about, I already have those in place. And I already have the qualifications, the background that I need. I just need to go find the money. And I know how to do that. I can sell it.
Good.
I'm willing to do anything to get what I want. And that's the bottom line.
The question was, what price are you willing to pay? And I've been sitting here thinking, and I don't know what price I'm willing to pay, because I've already paid all the prices. You can't get any lower than where I came from. We were in a hard charging mode before we got here. We were already on fast pace and already in hyperdrive. So it's not what price I have to pay, it's just some of the things we have to go back and get done, which used to seem rather large, now seem rather small. Basically, we're going to go home and see if we just can't make a mess out of things more, that's all. Only a bigger mess. And I want to tell you, I mean, I've been in the seminar business, being in the training business. I run across a lot of people, and the people I associate with all have good things to say, and they all are real people, but the event from the last 3 days is the culmination. It is the high end. It is the point to where I've been trying to arrive in what I've been doing in the past. And I couldn't, if there's 2 words in the English language to describe the title of your seminar, I don't know how we could have done it better than Quantum Leap. For those who are ready. And I understand that some aren't, but it just happened to hit us. Of course, we knew before we came here you were going to screw us up, so it's nothing.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I'm already a leg up on a lot of folks here. I'm already a family maverick, haven't had much to do with them, brothers and sisters, for probably 20 years. And my immediate family, they think I'm nuts because I do crazy things in real estate, and it's not supposed to work, but we make it work. So I guess what I really have to do, I don't have to worry much about, about that side, but I do have to reevaluate some of my acquaintances, I guess, and maybe some of the associations and organizations that I belong to. Kind of the moron type things, and no, seriously, and
I believe me, I know.
Yeah, and start running with the big dogs. I never really did care much what people thought. I mean, that was never a concern of mine. I don't plan to give up any association with the female companion that I have, though.
Doesn't even matter if she's a moron or not.
No, that's true. No, sure not. No, sure not.
Moron or not, you stay.
Someday you'll understand why.
Okay.
Okay. I thank you very kindly for the 3 days. Very, very enlightening and rewarding.
Thank you.
I like to stand up when I talk.
Well, that's because you look the same height for the standard sitting. I mean, what the hell's the difference?
That's right. Why is this speaker? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, in this 3-day event that I've taken part in, I have gone home with Dan to my home. I bring him with me into my sleeps and my dreams, and I haven't been able to really sleep. I haven't been able to really eat because that's not important. Eating and sleeping, so physical. But what I wanted to say is, Dan, I have already given up so much anyway. I've always known that my success was going to cost. Sometimes you don't know in detail exactly what you have to give up to get there, but I always knew where I wanted to go. So I have given up a lot. I have lost 3 grandmothers. I've taken myself away from my family, which means a lot to me, and came out to California by myself with a husband and 3 children. I think I've done a really good job with my children. They're all pretty successful. They all know their talents and their gifts from God. And but what I've learned from this seminar, it kind of put the frosting on the cake for me. I just got back from a vacation in New York, and on the flight home, something said inside, well, I hope you enjoyed your trip, because now is when the work really starts. I always knew that I was getting in the way. I never put the responsibility on anyone else but myself. I always clarified myself, or what I validated myself was through my work. My work is always valuable to me. Someone saying I've done a good job, someone saying not just Naima, but great Naima or fantastic Naima, that meant so much to me. So what I think I'm willing to give up now at this stage is a little piece of my business to allow it to grow. Seek a dream team, which has always been in my plans. I need a mentor, and I'm going to pursue a mentor maybe that's retired, that doesn't have a lot on his desk, and will have a chance to run around with me a little bit, and we'll have some fun. But anyway, I want to be I've always felt myself as being a trailblazer, and that's what I'm going to do. So I don't think I have to give up too much inside my home. I'll still keep my better half, moron or whatever, And
significant other, that's the new word.
yes, so I don't think he's never stood in my way. He's always told me I've been a Harriet Tubman, and if anyone knows who Harriet Tubman was, she was a slave who escaped, who went back into the South and rescued like over 1,000 slaves. So my husband has always referred to me as Harriet Tubman. And he's never allowed me to cry on his shoulder, no matter what job I had. It's always, Naima, you want it, okay, you've got it, and don't cry to me. So that's what I plan to do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, Dan, I consider myself a contrarian, liking myself to a ram in a lot of ways. And if people say I can't do certain things, like in athletics, I go ahead and do it. And I have had a commitment to certain athletic events and laser beam focus and a discomfort zone while I've been participating. And I haven't transferred that into business yet, but I'm willing to do what it takes to do that and to get rid of the negative people in my life, be it family, friends, or associates, to carry that through. And this 3 days has been very enlightening and enriching in my life, and I'd like to thank you again, Dan.
Thank you.
Well, for me, I already, at a young age, I sort of broke out of that cultural cocoon that I was placed in, being the only daughter. And after I did that, I made everyone else in my family very uncomfortable. But was very happy about what I did, being independent. And now I found that I'm at a level where I need to go 110%. And work that extra more, so that way I can achieve the dreams that I haven't even maybe put into the big picture yet. So I need to be focused and, continue being the one and only like I've been in my family.
Thank you. Let me make a comment while it's fresh in my mind. A lot of you have already, that we've talked to you so far, said that you've been a person that has gone against conventional wisdom. You've already made your a commitment to yourself to do this and that. But what you're really saying, and the reason why you're not a high-performance person yet, does anybody know why?
Isn't what we're looking for.
Well, no. No. Your expectations are too low. Expectations for yourself are too low. I've heard 10, 12, 15 people here say that I'm willing to do this, I've always been willing to do this, I've always been a da-da-da-da-da. Well, then why in God's name, then, aren't you a high-performance person? Because your expectations are in the toilet. It's all about self-esteem. It's all about feeling good about yourself. If that doesn't change, either you're all lying, or you're telling the truth and you got low expectations. There's one of the two. You can't have it both ways. On that simple note, carry on.
Thank you. I married into a religious culture where you went to church often.
Culture or cult? What?
Culture.
Oh.
And you went to church often and you said, I am not worthy. I am not worthy. It occurred to me one day what I was saying. I went home and I said, I am never going to say that again, and I will not be back. I explained it to my 3 kids because they knew I would go to hell if I didn't go back. And I said, that's my decision. You do what you want. They said, thank God, Mom. We've been waiting for ages for somebody to come up with this. But the conditioning part is really important. Several years later, I'm at my mother-in-law's funeral, and I say, and I am not, I started to say it, and I went, just like that, in the middle of a funeral. So you're right about the conditioning. It'll slip up on you.
This would have been in Latin, would it?
That's right. What am I going to do?
I know.
I already said that my first event this month was to listen to Dan. I'm sorry, in October. I went home and I said, we're changing the program, but we've got to investigate. You go learn this, I'm going to go learn this, you go learn this, you go learn this. When I get home, we have a meeting scheduled on Friday with our associate who doesn't know yet that he's our customer for the practices. Between now and Friday, we will structure the transaction that will entice him to take it over. And Dan, we've done this several times. We've gone into other ventures. We've I don't like to use the word fail, but we've experienced a lot of learning at them. And you know what? So what? It just doesn't mean spit.
You're right.
You just got to go do more.
That's exactly right, because it's all about transactions. I mean, again, Babe Ruth leading home runs, leading strikeouts. You know, he was the highest paid. He got paid more than the president, if I remember correctly, back whenever he did. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
After calling my job last night and finding how many hours I get for next week, Dan already told me to quit, and Mike told me to quit, and my brother told me to quit. Next Monday, Monday coming.
Day after tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to quit. I'm going to give him a week's notice and say, screw you.
Very good. And you'll feel good, especially when you tell him the screw you part.
Well, you asked a question, what price are we willing to pay? All that I can give, that's basically what I want to pay to get done what I need to do. And I've been on a path of unconventionalism for a year and 2 months now with this business that I'm involved in, network marketing. I chose that business because it was unconventional. I knew that I couldn't be what I wanted to be doing things the conventional way. I had to break the mold. And some people don't think I can do it. I believe in myself and this company and my products, and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to take it. The only thing that I could say that I've done wrong thus far is my expectations have not been high enough. I have to go for $1 million a month. That's my goal. And I know I can do it. So I've learned that from you, and I owe it all to you if I ever get there. Thank you.
Thank you. When you get there. When you get there.
I get there.
Let me make a comment about expectations again. You know, how many of you ever sold life insurance? Geez, only 2 of us? But this is a higher class group than I thought. Okay. Why do you think that, you know, the $1 million round table and that kind of stuff? Did you ever think, what if it was the $100 million round table? Or the $1 billion round table? When I was selling insurance, as soon as I because it was one of the products on Wall Street, I wasn't fully committed to selling life insurance, and I made that suggestion, and I didn't know anything about the structure of like the seminar now, because this was almost 20 years ago, and they told me that you can't do that, it's never been done, Prudential won't do it, and today they still got the $1 million round table. When you see the football games that are sponsored on Channel 7, they say that $1,000 is being donated to the scholarship fund of Oklahoma State. They've been given $1,000 now for 38 years. $1,000, you know, what? Conditioning. The same $1,000 in 1955 meant something. The same $1,000 in 1994 doesn't mean spit. I don't know what the hell you can buy for $1,000 in college now. But it's conditioning. It's the same, more of the same, and you're going to get more of the same. Excuse me, go ahead, please.
I have to finish writing, please.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me. Well, I originally came here for this weekend for the benefit of my son. I thought he had to make some life choices, and I made a few myself. And while I've been here, I mean, I've already had a big dream. On my sheet, I said that in 10 years we'd like to have 1,000 stores. And I've doubled that now. Also, while I've been here, my loan came through. Everything's hawked. And I've also been appointed the training director for the company yesterday morning by the main principals in the company, as well as in my own Bay Area thing. So I'm going to read my notes every day for a long time, and I've got a good team, and it's certainly nice to have met all you wonderful people, too.
Thank you.
Well, I fall into the category of people who has paid the price, achieved success, but by other people's measurement, not by my own, because the vehicle in which I was successful didn't give me the lifestyle, didn't allow me the lifestyle that I wanted. And I have known for a long time that I wanted to do something different because I'm not challenged and I know I'm not using all my potential. But it took me a long time to figure out what I wanted to do. And it also took me a long time to decide to go back in there and start paying that price again, because I know how hard that was. And I did not read that article that the good doctor talked about, that it's normal and healthy to change your career every 10 years. I was conditioned by my family that when you're successful in something, it's irresponsible to give it up. And then I started hearing things like you have to give up something to get something better. But I couldn't quite get myself to do it. And I had made up my mind to do it when I went to that seminar, and I went there seeking information. And when I saw you, I realized that what you had to offer was the teeth and the reinforcement that the ideas that I've always felt are okay to feel, because I have achieved whatever success I achieved by the attitudes, many of the attitudes that you've had, but I didn't know it was okay to have those attitudes because I was the rebel all the time.
Excuse me for interrupting. It's even less okay in society if you're a woman to have attitudes like mine. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're thought to be a rank bitch. I mean, and I use that, and that was, Burl is a perfect example of that, because, I mean, women that are high-performance people that don't care what other people think, just think about that.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a dichotomy. I mean, it's not possible in today's society, and that's why there's so few high-performance women.
That's right.
There's just, I mean, I tell the story. There's one Fortune 500 one Fortune 500 CEO that's a woman today. In 1971 or 72, Lillian Affinito was the first Fortune 500 CEO woman, and who's a friend of mine, and she was for Singer Sewing Machine. There's still only one, 22 or 23 years later. There's still only one, and it's because it's a dichotomy. I mean, women, because of their conditioning, they've even got more goofball conditioning than men in general, because they're supposed to do this, they're supposed to do that, they're not supposed to do this, they're not supposed to do that. And so you're right. I mean, it is okay to think that way, and to put yourself in a position to, be all that you can be.
I have also always felt like I was a visitor from another planet, looking in at things that made no sense to me. Unfortunately, I haven't had the good fortune to find any people like you in my life to change my association to be with. I am always the exception. I'm always the one that people are draining the energy and wanting from me, and so I have always known what I had to do, but I just, couldn't provide myself the facility to do it, and I made up my mind that I was going to go and seek whatever it was I needed, no matter where I had to go. And so I'm here, and I think it's a real tribute to you, especially because you don't have to do what you do, and nobody else at your position would do it, because they don't care enough. They have what they want.
Amen.
Well, I didn't do that. I didn't say that to flatter you, because I know you don't mean that.
I agree.
But I mean sincerely.
But the other thing is, that's why I can be as candid as I am, because I don't care what the morons say. I mean, I just don't. I'm not, and I got into the business because I can do that. I can put myself in a position to give you the straight poop and the candid talk. I mean, I forget, somebody told me in San Diego, or maybe they told Ed, that that they thought one of the reasons I was able to be so candid is because I didn't have to really make a living doing this. I like to make money at everything I do. And the reason, you know, before when I did it for 15, 18 years, I did it for nothing. I didn't know anybody pay me to do this.
Exactly.
You know, it's a mitzvah, it's a miracle.
Most people who have the facility, even if they're friends of yours, and even if you are doing business with them, they don't want you to know anything because they're fearful that you might have the intelligence to do as much or more than they've already done, and then that would hurt their ego. So I've noticed that. So even among the people that I know who are successful, they're not willing to give the information because they're fearful that maybe they're not as smart as maybe they were lucky, just like you said, and maybe someone else will come along and surpass them, and that won't do
You're
their
hanging
ego
around with the
good.
wrong big dogs then, because there's plenty of big dogs that'll share information. But there are a lot of big dogs that are selfish, insecure, and know they couldn't do it again. She's absolutely accurate, and I've alluded to that a half a dozen times in the last 3 days. There are a number of them, and I've been, you know, not blessed because I go out and find them. I mean, the ones that have helped me in my career, and I continue to go out and find them. And when I give guidance to other people, like the young kids, to go call on Jerry Buss, who was thrilled. Nobody had called him in 25 years. It's unbelievable when you think about it.
Well, in terms of paying the price, I realize that, and I have always realized, but now it's just more reinforced, thank you, that you pay the price now or you pay the price later. I mean, there's no getting away from it. I mean, you pay the price by either not knowing that you aren't the best you can be, knowing that you haven't accomplished all that you could, and also you know, not having the kind of money to afford you the kind of lifestyle that you want. And I've always been the kind of person that felt the last thing I want to do is, you know, be an old lady in a nursing home thinking about what I didn't do. So I'm going to
Good thought to pay everybody to place in their mind.
I'm going to suck in
old
my
lady or an old man in a nursing home.
So I'm going to suck in my pantyhose, to coin a phrase, another
right.
chapter phrase, and just pay the price.
Very good. Thank you.
Like I was going to just stand up here and blow smoke up my ass and say I was willing to do anything, but I wanted to quantify that, and so like the 7 steps you have to success, the TAPE program, I have my 7 prices to pay this month. I'm going to close my business, so I'm not going to waste time selling it. It's not worth it. I'm going to move out. I'm going to move without a forwarding address. I'm not going to let my family or my doofus friends know where I am. Yeah, I'll tell. Well, what I'm going to do is I'll tell my mother and father. I'll give my mother and father a call. Also mention to them that it's not a phase. I'm not going to have. They should stop waiting for grandchildren. I don't want children, and I'm not going to have children.
It's not a phase.
Yeah, I thought, you know, next year.
I understand.
Okay, and I've already canceled all my vacations on the break. I'm going to burn most of my clothes and ask Linda where to shop. And
ooh, that's the heaviest commitment of them all.
Throw away 90% of my files and my books. And I've already taken a step to do this. I'm going to drop out of the doctoral program I'm in for education. It's a waste of time. And then the last thing is carry a barf bag wherever I go for the next month. So I really appreciate it. And
carry a what?
A barf bag.
That's very good.
Thank you.
That's excellent. And we haven't gotten into in the longer seminars. What I do is I make control freaks give a commitment to going to clean out all the 7,000 things that you've got, dump them in a trash can, just in a big doggy bag, go through all the mail, all the junk that you've kept for all your life that doesn't mean anything, all the old clothes that you're never going to wear, you're never going to fit into again. And that's one of the things that we do. In fact, I told you that the kid got it right away. I mean, when she sat right up here, I knew it instantly, you know. It's like the hot man or the hot woman. I mean, she got it. She's got less preconditioning to fight with, to fight over. She's got less garbage in to get rid of. But it's still not easy. I mean, she saw she was stuttering when she was saying it.
I'm getting nauseous right now.
Yeah. The barf bag she's going to get, I believe her. Yeah. I mean, that is the ultimate. And there's no doubt in my mind that 6 months from now, a year from now, a year and a half from now, that I'm going to be able to get her on the phone like I did Casey, or have her at one of these deals like Burl, and she's going to have made quantum leaps in her career, whatever she decides to do. The idea about not wasting her time selling the business, I would agree. You know, it's like I tell some of these guys, just turn the key, walk away. It's like I gave away 10 years of equity. Remember the building I gave back into the bank? 10 years of real estate equity that I rolled up in tax-free exchanges and all that crap. All the time I wasted on that damn building, it just pisses me off. And I had a partner named Chris Popovich, used to play basketball, 6'10" or whatever. And I knew we were in trouble when he says, I'm going to give you my half.
Good indication.
Yeah. And so he says, Dan, I can't screw with it anymore. I can't well, how am I going to manage it from Scotland? And I ultimately gave it back to the bank, you know, and we had a lot of equity in it. I just said, this is it, forget it. Because I'm spending so much time fiddle-farting around with this big, huge building, then I'm losing money. This is costing me money and all the other things I do. And I gave it back. I didn't bother, didn't sell it, didn't do anything, just gave it to them. And they sent me a check for $13,000. I still remember this, and I couldn't figure out why. And it's because my lawyer had agreed that I would pay part of closing costs when they transferred. Anyway, and at the end, because there was so much equity left in the building, they sent me the 13 grand back. They couldn't even take it from me. The bank didn't have the balls to take my money, so they sent me back to $13,000. But I mean, I just walked away. And I mean, you know, for this room, you'd consider it a good net worth, let alone just equity in a building or a series of buildings. But sometimes that's what you got to do. Just walk away. So I relate to what she just said. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
One more thing. On the subject of what she said, it might be a good marketing tip for you to create some quantum leaf barf bags to give out at the end.
Quantum leaf barf bags. Yeah, that's a... Whoops. Okay. We're gonna come to a crescendo now, and it's gonna be rapid. Exit strategy. Most of you, your exit strategy will be dropping dead. Hoffman's gonna drop dead at one of his stores, just curl over behind the register, you know, checking to make sure nobody stole any dollar bills, and that's not what quantum leap growth is all about. You know, and I'm not saying it's 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, because I already told you, if you're over 40 years old, you're in the next cycle, blow your business out. I don't care where, just blow it out, because you may not live long enough to see the second cycle. And I'm a proponent of selling things in up markets, not down markets. Just blow it out, whether you're ready to retire or not. Just blow it out. And Mosby's, if that happens, when it happens to us in Fire Resources, remind me of this. Don't let me hang on, and don't let Grubbs and Harris try to convince us to hang on. Blow it out. Just blow it out. Expecting the unexpected and trying to plan an exit strategy around all the alternatives that could possibly, or all the permutation, is impossible. Desert storm, hurricanes, you name it. You're going to move up here? Yeah, okay. And all the other junk that can happen to you. I mean, floods. But don't ever underestimate how wrong you can be. Don't plan for it, but don't underestimate it. So then when it happens, it doesn't take you a year or 4 years to overcome it, to dig yourself out of the emotional hole. Remember that you've got two checkbooks. You've got an emotional checkbook and you've got a financial checkbook. Most people's growth is prohibited by the emotional checkbook. Everybody in this room thinks they need more capital to grow. What you need is a deeper emotional checkbook. You need more money in your emotional bank account, not in your financial one. Keeping your laser beam focused to the point of exclusion of everything else. I used to use a slide to the exclusion of God, country, and family, and not necessarily in that order. But because I'm a kinder, gentler guy, I don't use that slide anymore. I just tell you. Do the ends justify the means? You damn right they do. And anybody that tells you any different hasn't been there. The ends do justify the means. As long as it's legal, moral, and ethical, I will tell you that your moralities and ethics will change. And if you don't think that, you live in, I got a bridge I need to sell you. I mean, and why does a racehorse wear blinders? To stay focused. Most of you ought to sell blinders. Make a note of this. We're going to have quantum leap blinders for these people next time we do this. Barf bag and blinders. Going to give them a quantum leap special deal. And of course, they don't want to give it away to make it a special, see? Make it a special bonus. The most important decision you'll make since starting your business is getting out. And very, other than the insurance industry that covers it too well, I don't know of any industry that covers exit strategies. And they're trying to sell you $4 billion worth of whole life, unless this business has changed since I used to do it. I mean, they've got all kind of fancy products, but it's basically whole life. And somehow whole life seems to be better, right, Craig? Okay, it hasn't changed since I did it. Yeah. These people are writing quick, huh? We got to put a book of all the overheads and sell that. You know?
Tom Peters just did that.
Yeah, I know he did. Well, pay yourself first. This is my favorite slide, because this is the thing I believe in the most. This is where my heart's in 100%. Most of you that are living off of your businesses that aren't public are squeezing it and paying for your water bill at your house and just squeezing it to death and trying to ride the profits down so you can live off the company. Okay, I understand that. I don't agree with it, because then when you try to sell it, then I told you already, well, if you back all these numbers that I stole over the last 25 years, the company's really made a lot of money. Well, nobody does that. But what you should do, and is mandatory, is as you grow, continue to pay yourself out of profits. Don't keep plowing them back in, because then, one, if you never get to that cycle to sell, at least you've gotten a lot of money out of the business in the meantime. And two, and more importantly, when it's time to sell, you don't have to squeeze the last damn dollar out of the business because you're already rich. I've seen more entrepreneurs, businessmen that run companies that have had to walk away or not get what they wanted out of their companies because they were asking for too much. They were trying to stretch. But if you paid yourself all the way up, you don't have to do that. Big, big point. Even after I got thrown out of Great Western, as the jurors saw, horrified as they were, Dan Pena pulled out $26 million between 1985 and 1991 to pay himself. I pulled it out, though. Damn right I did. What if I hadn't have pulled it out? Then I get thrown out of my ass. Then I'd really be sick. I'd have to use that barf bag. I paid myself. And I paid everybody else. I paid myself down to the guy that drove me in my car.
How did you pay yourself? Bonus or?
Bonus, salary increases, whatever I could think of. Or not, actually, whatever O'Melveny and Myers. And we hired some other doofus big-time compensation company, so it was all pretty and nice and legal. They used to have to remind me, well, this month you're supposed to give yourself a $60,000 raise. And I forget. Well, I didn't keep track of that stuff. Well, what are you here for? Controller? Pay it to be retroactive. Do you want interest? Nah, you don't have to give me interest. You don't have to give me interest, you know. I'm a sport. You don't have to give me interest. Yeah. Well, can I take the interest then? You pay me in the interest. Pay yourself first. Gets you out of a lot of problems. It also makes it more readily or easier for you to get used to hunting with the big dogs. Because if you're plowing all your money like a skinflint back in the company, you got no money to hunt with the big dogs. You got no money to go around the world for 4, 5, 6 weeks playing golf with your good friend, like I'm going to do here in a few weeks. You got no money, because it's all back in the company. And if you do go public, and they throw your ass out because you're worthless, and you've hit your Peter principle 15 years ago. By the way, a lot of people don't go public because they know in their hearts they are worthless. They know the first time, if they can get a quality board together, which ain't likely, normally Merrill Lynch will do it for you, and one of the caveats, and they tell all the board members, if the investment house puts the board together for you, I'll guarantee it, within 12 months you're gone. We got to keep him on because his name's on them stores, but as soon as that, he's in history. We'll throw his miserable ass out quicker than Johnny got out of the Army. So I'd put my own board together if I was you. Craig, they'll offer to put your board for you. And if I'm on that board, Hoffman, I've got to look out for the shareholders. Because Omar Khayyam said it better than I, some for the glories of this world and some sigh for the prophet's paradise to come. I'll take the cash and let the promise go, nor heed the music of the distant drummer. How many was that, 4,000 years ago? When was that?
Long time ago.
Long time ago. And they knew it even then. Take the cash and run like a thief in the night. I keep telling you, this stuff isn't new. Since before Christ, since Cro-Magnon man crawled. By the way, Steve Sussman, God love him, one of my top lawyers, he looks like Cro-Magnon man, looks like a throwback. Since Steve Sussman crawled over that big slimy rock. Okay, now, you didn't think it was over, did you? You didn't get off the hook that easy. You can think positively all day long, all year long, but positive action is what counts. We talked about, a lot of you said that you've already been doing what it takes, but you've got low expectations. Otherwise, you'd already be where you want to be. Trying harder and harder starts producing less and less. I think some of you in the audience have already been exposed to that. It's not about trying harder and harder. It's not trying like I'll do my best. It's I'll do what is necessary, as Winston Churchill said. I'll do what's necessary. Your doubts are not the product of accurate thinking, but habitual thinking. That crappy preconditioning that your parents gave you, and your school teachers gave you, and all your doofus friends gave you. It's habitual thinking. Because remember, just because you've never seen it, absence of evidence doesn't mean evidence of absence. I want you to get out there and get ruthless. Now this young lady, she's getting about as ruthless as she can for where she is in life. Get out there and get ruthless. I want you to be like the last 2 minutes of your last Super Bowl. Now, just a quick brief summary on how we get started. How are we going to go out and do this? We got a dream. You've got to have the human resources. You've got to put a dream team together. For some of you, that's a board. For some of you, that's a mentor. I already told you what I think of mastermind groups. I don't think much of them. Although some people do make them work, I've never been part of one that was worth a damn. Because I told you they suck all my brains. And I'm the one limp leaving the room, and everybody else is all charged up. And you've got perception equals reality, and I call it the roost success. You want to act more successful. You've only got one time to make a first impression. I didn't come to this seminar first day with this sweatshirt on. I came the last day because your perception of me has already been built. And it's way greater than you ever think, you can even imagine. My grandiose lifestyle and what I've done. It's bigger than life. And that's the way I like it. Almost cost me my financial net worth in trial, but we got over that. And we're going to talk about that in a second. You've got to take action now. You've got to step up to the plate. You're going to develop your quantum leap battle plan. You've gotten the forms. And you only need a marginal shift. I already told you the difference between a 250 batter and a 350 batter is the difference between making $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 a year and making $5, $6, $8 million a year. One time at bat, 10% better. That's it. There's not a man, woman, or child, and to some of you younger ladies, you're just children to me, that can't make a 10% additional effort. None. You've been given the 11-step idea to execution, and now we want you to apply for those seminars that are worth going to. Now you can go back and apply some of the good things that you have learned at those other seminars and through those other tapes and through those other books. You've been given the foundation, the tools to pick and choose what really works. And I've tried to stress, even though I'm at the General Patton or the Schwarzkopf end of the continuum, you can be a Henry Kissinger type and still get it done very, very effectively. There's no question about that. There's too many guys out there that have been successful at it. And you don't have to do it alone, and more importantly, you can't do it alone. Forget about, you don't have to do it alone. In my judgment, you can't do it alone. In my judgment, you need a mentor. We've talked about who, where, how, when. Talked about Jerry Buss answering these guys' phone calls. Nobody called him in 25 years. How long has he been here in Los Angeles, Jerry Buss? 25 years? Nobody's called him since he's been here. Can you believe that?
He started off with houses in Compton and Watts.
Okay. Well, I mean, since he bought the Lakers, since he got to be a high-profile guy, nobody's ever called him. How do you ask for help? One form is being here. One form is asking a mentor. Don't find time, make it, just do it. And again, like the last 2 minutes of your Super Bowl, your last Super Bowl. Each person is able to realize your dream. Concluding remarks, you know what my background is. It wasn't too stellar to say that I'm being kind when I say that. I got my act together. It's no panacea, and this is your wake-up call. This is your wake-up call, ladies and gentlemen. Now, could we turn the lights down a little? You put in your mind what your dream is. This was mine. Living in a castle with all the overhead and all the expenses isn't everybody's cup of tea. It happens to be mine, and it happens to be my wife's. And my kids don't know any different, don't know any better. But whatever yours is, you should constantly eat it, sleep it, breathe it for every day of your life from now till they put dirt on you and daisies are growing up from your chest and maggots are eating your eyes out. That's pretty graphic.
That's brutal.
Yeah, that's pretty graphic. But I mean, I showed you the castle timeline goal deal from April of '83 to August of '84. It all happened. It all happened. It can happen for you as quickly. This was my perception of myself way before I was like this. You have to, in your own mind, have the perception of what you want to be, and then people's perception of you will follow. People perceive me as being bigger than life, but I am. And they will perceive you to be whatever you perceive yourself to be. people we call gifted are different from the crowd in one very special way. They accepted their gifts. They let them happen. The high achievers, the persons you admire, are those individuals who opened their gifts. These winners have more gifts because they claimed them, took them out of the wrappings and used them. I've merely opened them up. You haven't opened a lot of them yet. We've all got the same gifts under the tree. We've already proven we're all about 100 IQ from the first day. Now that I've known you a little better, I'd say that we probably gave most of the people in the room a little, and as opposed to taking any away from them. But that's, you know, hindsight's 20/20. The path that is your destiny is yours. This was written to me 36 years ago, or 57, 58, 36 or 37 years ago. It's the only good advice my dad's ever given me. It's the only advice he ever gave me, probably. To my son, this was when I graduated from grammar school. Approach it, the future is yours. Approach it with honesty and ambitiously, with a will to fight for the rights of mankind. I'm always in litigation because I don't like being screwed around, and I don't like other people being screwed around. That's one of the reasons I litigate a lot. And it's a cleansing process. It separates the men from the boys. All high-performance people litigate a lot. Always balance the rights of man with the rights of society. Have faith in yourself and faith in people. Have faith in yourself. That's what self-esteem's all about. Have faith in people. Give them the opportunity. Give them the equity. Allow them to make mistakes and help them grow. For if you trust no one, you cannot trust yourself. If you don't allow people, you get paid for what you do and what you get other people to do for you. If you are not effective getting people to help you, not beyond your dream team, you will not be able to create quantum growth in anything that you do. You've got to incorporate the use of other people. You can't do it by yourself, and I'm not just talking about a mentor. You've got to create a team that works for you, that transcends the few people that you can organize and supervise properly. Now, I've told you I know there's life after death because I've been dead 5 times. I've come back from death, so I've seen that tunnel, but every time I see the tunnel, it's a dollar sign at the end. I don't see God down there. I see my dollar sign. Maybe someday I'll see him at that end of the tunnel. Hopefully not anytime soon. But it's important that even when you get these high-priced advisors and you believe in them, you get the best money, the best you can't afford, they make mistakes. And this is when the ultimate suck-up-your-pantyhose time. Now, this is a letter that was written to me March 19, 1993, by the law firm of Sussman and Godfrey, the highest-paid plaintiff lawyer in America today, Steve Sussman. And it says here, basically, you were not as pessimistic as Skip. However, you stated that you would not proceed at trial if Steve and I thought you only had a 1% chance of winning, but that you were inclined to go forward if I had a significant chance of winning, even if it was less than 50%. Our right to address that issue. To make a long story short, he tells me I can't win. It can't win. This is in March before the trial. This is the end of the letter, and it says, very truly yours, da-da-da-da, we'll defend you till you run out of money, basically. Then on September 11th, this was 3 weeks into the trial. As I indicated this, as I dictate this, we are at the end of the 4th week of the trial in your case. I want to once again urge you to consider settlement. Although you have rejected all previous settlement entreaties by Great Western, we have now completed, he goes on to say that you got no chance of winning, and you've had your say in court. They thought I just wanted to get up and flap my mouth.
Dan, why did they want you to settle? So making sure they could say it?
No, they wanted me to settle because they honestly felt that we didn't have any chance. I was being accused of 32 counts of wrongdoing. That they were suing me for something in excess of $200 million. If I had lost, it would have pretty much wiped me out. And they said all the evidence, they had 30 or 40 witnesses that all came up and perjured themselves. All that dream team that they're going to bring in to be your board of directors, Craig, all perjured themselves, will all perjure themselves when it comes between you and their ass. Cameron, everybody. And we had one witness, me.
What were they offering to settle for?
Nothing. They said, you pay us $1 million and go away and we won't put you in jail.
What a deal. What a bargain.
Yeah. Yeah, what a deal. So even when you get the very best that money can buy, which they were, they're not always right. And conventional wisdom was I was going up the river. Of course, after I won, which isn't true, I don't plan to come back to England. This is an English paper. I don't plan to come back. But, it sounds better that I did plan to come back. Life is like riding a bicycle. You don't fall off unless you stop pedaling. And that's Claude Pepper, God bless him. He was in Congress and in the Senate and governor of the state of Florida for 60 or 70 years. He had the best looking 30-year-old administrative assistant I ever saw in my life. And I mean, Claude used to, with his head flopped over, drooling on her big breast, sit there. Is it time for me to vote? God bless him. He's gone now, old Claude. Now, we have covered a lot of material, and we have talked about concepts that are very much foreign to you in many, many ways, especially the expectations and the self-esteem things. For those of you, the ex-altar boys, nemo potest extrium patriam. And I didn't used to have a translation underneath, but then nobody remembered their Latin very well, so I put a translation underneath. Perhaps I can help you beyond today, yesterday, and the day before. I've talked to a lot of you. We've got ongoing dialogues and discussions, and we're going to continue those dialogues. But the most important thing to me is that whether you continue to talk to me or you don't continue to talk to me, is that you put these things into application for your own self, for your family. Again, when you lose focus, you not only let yourself down, your business down, but you let your family down. And I don't think any of you want to do that. I'm open to questions on anything that we've covered, on anything other than politics, because I don't give a damn about politics. I don't know about 187 or anything else. So, Ed, do you have something? The mic? Yeah.
What's happened to Great Western since you've left?
Well, I helped them. I talk to them. I give them help. I'm still the largest shareholder, individual shareholder. So I helped them get them into South America. They're in the process. They're doing fine. I mean, they're doing well. The stock price is way down. Not so much because of me, I don't think. Maybe it is, but because of the Iraqi war and all the things that they had to deal with. I think partially they cut the dividend out when I got thrown out because I got most of the dividend, and so they decided, and they didn't understand when they cut the dividend, all the income funds that owned them sold the stock, and the stock dropped 60–70%. But just so I wouldn't get the dividend, they did away with the dividend. Short-term solution to long-term problems. But they thought that they could tie up my money, and I wouldn't have money to fight the defense, and so that's why they cut the dividend now. So now if they instill the dividend, none of the institutions that believe them, they're going to keep it around. Whenever they get in trouble, they'll just cut it again. So we were a trustee stock. We were a widows and orphan stock. And so, but you know, I don't worry about that. I could use the several $1 million a year I used to get dividends, but you know, that's life. The company's doing well, though. They're doing very well.
Earlier today, you said that when your father is asked about you, he just considers you an enigma and says, I don't know, I can't explain Dan. The family just kind of, But then it was eerie because having that in mind, when you put up that slide about that quote from your father, way back when you were graduating from grammar school, and you started to realize what I've heard for 3 days and apply it to what your father had given you, maybe not even aware of all that he'd given you back then, everything, giving away equity, everything.
He didn't give. He wrote that in my little book, and I used to use that signature to forge my passes at the Miss School. The book is all worn out, where there's Manuel Pena, because I used to use tracing paper and I used to forge it. And my senior year in high school, I missed 187 days of school. There's not many more than 187 days, but I mean, so I mean, maybe he did. I didn't realize. You know, I picked up on this when, you know, 15 years ago when I was given the Latin Business Association award as Businessman of the Year. I was trying to think of a keynote speech I was going to make, and because, you know, the Latins like the familia bullshit, and so I was trying to say, what can I say positive about my family? And I couldn't think of anything. You know, he whacked the shit out of me, broke my ribs, you know, ripped my arm out of its side. I mean, that's not what they want to hear too much.
My question was whether he ever makes the connection.
Oh! No, I'm sorry. No, not at all. I said this at a speech, and my wife will attest to this. Remember how he sobbed? He started sobbing. I used this in the middle of the speech, and you couldn't hear. I mean, there was like 2,500 people at the Biltmore Hotel, and you could hear this old man. Sherrod, you were there. Where's Sherrod? Sherrod left. He was just sobbing because he knew he had nothing to do with it. And he had the guilt. He had the Jewish guilt. He felt like shit, because basically he treated me like shit most of my life. But good, boy, all the Mexicans out there crying. It was great.
I bet.
I really worked, though. I can give a great speech. There's no question about that. But it worked. I mean, and he just felt bad because here, you know, he knows. Now, I think when he wrote that, 1957, his intentions were right, and what he would say if he were here today, he'd say, I did the best I could, I know that I did wrong, but I thought I was doing right, and, you know, that's what he'd say. He's told me that, you know. But he tells my kids that I was an honor student, that I was this, I was that, and that I never had to hit Dan because he was always such a good boy. And so Dan and Derek come down to my office just a couple years ago, and they tell me this. I said, that's bullshit, kids. That's not true. We're going to go down and talk to Grandpa, get it straightened out. So we went down into the den, and he's sitting there drinking, watching the TV, and, you know, and I said, Dad, we need to talk to you about this. And the boys just came up and told me that you said I was an honor student, and I said I was anything but that. And I said, you never hit me, and the kids want to know if that's true. And I said, I want you to tell them. Like this. He never looked up. No, it's not true. He feels the passion that I do about how wrong he was now. But, you know, you can't waste time on things you can't change, you know. We're not very close, and we haven't been, probably never will be. But it's you know, it's part of the thing that's probably made me what I am today is because I've gone out of my way to be successful. You know, my family, just to keep me alive was their goal until the age of reason. That's, you know, not get out of high school, not get good grades, just if we can keep them alive. And I tested that on many occasions, you know, and but it makes, you know, and it makes the resolve, and we all have our stories about our life. But I mean, I didn't get any of this feeling of being successful till I was in my 20s, and I really made a resolve when I was in my early 30s. I got a late start. I mean, some of you say you're older than that now, but I mean, it's never too late. I didn't really get my act together till I was in my early 30s. And I'm in my late 40s now, so I've only been doing this 15 years, really. But I'm, one thing that differentiates me from almost everybody I know, I'm a quick learner. When I figure out something that works, I don't go back and reinvent the wheel over nothing. I am a quick learner, boy. I mean, when I learn something about the energy business from Jerry Ormond or Gratsos, I mean, that's it. It's in concrete. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. That's why working with women, when I work with women, it's easier because they don't reinvent the wheel. When I tell them, Burl, I think to make your next 20 million, what you got to do is you got to let a cab kind of crease you over here, hit you kind of in the side. Burl say, do you want me to hit him from the back? The cab hit me from the back? Do I have to expose my, She wouldn't ask. Whereas some of the men, well, gee, I could get hurt there. What if the guy doesn't hit the brakes in time and I could get a broken rib and, gee. Some of this stuff is almost blind faith. Let the force be with you, like in that movie. It's like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Maybe I'm your Obi-Wan Kenobi. For some of you, I'm going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan. For some of you. For some of you, you'll put your tapes away and never listen to them or give them to somebody. For some of you, your notes. For some of you, that's life. When I first started doing this, my ego was involved that I couldn't understand how come I can't change everybody's life. But I understand that's not possible. But what I would submit to you, if you just change a little bit, you're going to be better off in your business. You're going to leave more to your family. I mean, and that makes me feel good. I've already, only doing this 15, 18 months, I've already had a lot of success with a lot of people. So now what we have to do is get me in front of more people, and that's what we're working on. It's taken us 15 months of doofusing around to figure out what the formula was. This seminar has sold for as much as 10 grand and as little as $119. Testing the market. That's a big dichotomy. That's a big spread. And the 10 grand people think they got a bargain. And some of the $119 people bitched. I'm not lying to you. And I want to crush their heads. But I mean, we've been told, and we're still continuing to test marketing, and I'm trying to get a book written. I am going to get a book written, but I'm working on getting the right ghostwriter. And there's all kinds of. I didn't even needed product for the first year and 1 month. I had nothing to sell. Didn't have a tape, didn't have a book, didn't have squat. And then, Ed kind of fell upon me like the clap. And, I was going to be more graphic and say, are we still on the camera? Oh, yeah, never mind. Okay. And so, and he's helped me a great deal in defining where I should be. But I think it's suffice it to say, I think this audience is good proof. And you have critique forms, don't they? I don't want any doofus critiques. I didn't get my question answered. It's because you didn't ask. So don't just, if you're gonna put that down, just don't bother filling anything out. And because I'm here, I'll answer them still. It's been a learning process. I tell the biggest marketing mistake I ever made, and people have heard me. I sent out 65,000 brochures, $8 brochures, with no phone number or address how to contact me. True story. I said that at the Abraham. It's a true story. And I remember one of the guys at the Abraham says, I got one of those fancy brochures. What were you trying to do? But it's true. I've done, fortunately I had money, otherwise I'd be out of this business already. But I've made all those mistakes because when I got into this business, I didn't really understand it was a business. I just thought I'd have an open forum to flap my mouth about stuff that I believed in. And it is a business, and so we're running it more like a business now, or we are running it like a business now, not more like a business. But the name of the game is exposure, and that's what 95 is all about, is exposing these, bless you, exposing these precepts, these concepts to as many people as we can, as fast as we possibly can. And because I'm not sure, I plan on doing this the next few years. I'm not sure I'll do it forever, but at least for the next few years until my kids, you know, probably get out of school, and my kids are young. Yes, a question in the back.
Dan, on the first morning, you said that there were 4 to 5 major points to remember, things along the lines of all high-performance people have a good high level of love for themselves, focus on only 2 to 3 things at once. The third point, by empowering people to duplicate your energy, you will affect a greater presence and results. Number 4 was act as if there were no limits to your abilities. Is there a 5th or 6th point you'd add to that?
Yeah, you asked me that before, and I remember. All high-performance people give away parts of their deals. They all do, in different forms, but they all give away. All high-performance individuals never look back. They only look forward. They're not interested in what they did. You know, there's a lot of the KKR guys and these guys have done so many billions of dollars in deals. They don't look back. They're only looking at what they can do going forward. And so those are all common traits of high-performance people. High-performance people also don't even think about pay price to action. The only reason I've articulated it like that is because I'm doing this now. They just do what it takes. Winston Churchill says, "Don't do your best. Do what it takes." And they just naturally do that. Joe Montana doesn't think about pay price to action. He's going to get a less salary and this. He just does whatever it takes them down the field. They got 2 seconds or 2 minutes. Takes them down the field. That's it. And and when I make the analogy, playing the last 2 minutes of your Super Bowl, they don't even think about. It's ingrained because remember, motivation gets you started. A habit keeps you going. And these people are in the habit of winning. I'm in the habit of winning. I mean, I'm dumbfounded when the financial institution turns me down. I'm dumbfounded when something I do doesn't work. You know? Mike here, please.
Earlier when you were talking about delegating or giving your critical path to your subordinates or your team or whatever it is, and you talked about that naturally they're going to make mistakes.
By definition.
It's a certainty. And my question is, if you have an individual or individuals that, and I've made a lot of mistakes myself, and one of the things that I think I do well is I am also a quick learner. I usually only make a particular mistake once. But sometimes I have some people who make the same mistake, the same mistake 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Those are people or history.
That's about what I thought, because yeah.
Do I have to do it on the mic?
Yeah. We want to memorialize this for time eternal.
We had that discussion at breakfast this morning with one of the crew that is here, and it could be that if he's making the same mistake over and over, is because he knows that you're going to correct the mistake.
That's a good point.
Yep. That is the best answer.
Oh, thank you.
Everyone knows that they're going to correct their mistakes. How do they know that? They keep on helping you have that job.
Can you go over how you get your attorney and accountants into the deals step by step?
Using stealth and canny. Well, the lure of greed of money.
Yeah, the big promise.
Yeah, I mean, because especially now, the accounting business and the lawyer business is extremely competitive. Big time. I mean, these guys would do almost anything for business. And what you do is, when I find an attorney or a lawyer or a financial person that I want to bring into my deal, I first of all start by giving them all my business. or at least all the business that makes sense. You know, if I'm fighting a lawsuit in Houston and I got a New York lawyer, I mean all the business that makes sense. And I bring him in and start to talk to him about giving him a piece of the deal. And I'm meaning it, though. I'm not just jerking him around. I'm giving him a piece of the deal. And normally over 3 or 6 or 9 months, because it normally takes a guy that long, if he's got any clientele whatsoever, to phase himself out of certain cases. Because unlike just closing down our doors, a lawyer will get disbarred and sued for malpractice. He can't just walk out the door. If clients have any brains, and maybe clients don't have any brains anymore, you sue them for malpractice. You can't just leave. So you phase them in. That's one of the only things that I believe that it's a smart way to phase them in and tell them, okay, you're the lawyer, we're doing business. A year from now, you're going to join the firm of ABC, and you're going to own 10% of the company. And 2 things happen. Number 1, he becomes more dedicated to your needs. Number 2, it allows him to phase out. And number 3, it allows him in a proper way to re-dictate or how the billable hours are doing. Now, some of the big, huge firms will not take contingency cases. Some of the big, huge firms have an absolute policy of not taking equity in deals. O'Melveny & Myers is one of them. I mean, O'Melveny & Myers will not take a contingency or an equity position ever. But I don't use O'Melveny for that. Whereas Sussman & Godfrey, which is one of the finest litigating firms in the country, will. They'll take equity. In fact, I was going to get the Penthouse in London as part of a settlement with Great Western. They were going to take 40% of the Penthouse. This is when we were negotiating a possible contingency. As it turned out, I just paid them the money, and I didn't do a contingency fee. But they were going to take 40%. The 2 senior partners said, okay, well, as long as we can use it when we're in London, that's part of the fee. And originally, I mean, the junior partners of the law firm told me that was impossible. But when Steve Sussman likes London, Neil Manny likes London, their doofus wives like. We got to put a nice big 3-story, 6-bedroom penthouse. That'd be great. Now, you can't give them a fishing house on a lake in Waco, Texas. They'd be less interested. I mean, in fact, I don't think they'd be, but maybe a partner in a fairly big regional firm in Waco, Texas would be interested. And I'm sure, but you can. For any firms that's got like 10 to 100 lawyers in it, you'll be able to bring them into deals. 10 to 100 lawyers off the top of my head. Accounting firms, some regional, well, accountant by GAAP rules can't take equity in deals. Accountants can't take, because then their opinions are not tarnished, whatever, invalid.
Who can't?
Accountants can't equity. They're not supposed to take equity in deals.
Do.
I know, but see, those aren't the big 6 accounting firms, and their numbers are by definition, by GAAP, general accepted accounting procedures, shouldn't be accepted. If the other side knew that they had equity in the deal, by definition, the numbers are invalid. See, but see, like business, a lot of business brokers aren't honest. They take fees on both sides of deals. I mean, doesn't mean just because the rules say that they're supposed to do that doesn't mean they adhere to them. So over time and after experience dealing with various accountants and lawyers, you find the 2 or 3 that you think that you could live long term with, and then you approach them on a business basis that I want you to come in as my in-house general counsel or chief operating officer or chief financial officer or whatever. Most medium-sized businesses are poorly represented in the chief financial officer area. And companies $0 to $50 million, and I'm talking about revenue now, are normally always poorly represented. I mean, they don't have any experience, and that's why they have poor banking relations. They don't have adequate lines of credit. They're not, if they are factoring receivables, they're factoring them in a piss poor way, and because they got some guy, and that was internal, who was the bookkeeper, that they rose or pushed up the line and promoted him way beyond his level of expertise. You know, the famous Peter principle.
Why did you decide to get into oil? You were just looking for a deal, and
No, I was with a Wall Street firm, Bear Stearns. I saw the first oil embargo in 1973, And when the 79 oil embargo hit, I saw a lot of idiots become instantly worth 20, 50, $100 million. Oil went from $2.40 a barrel to $14 a barrel. I mean, it was obvious to me that this was an industry I had to be in. In my judgment, the large oil companies were at that time the most poorly managed companies in commerce in America. And they just, I mean, Jerry can tell better stories than I can, but I mean, there were fortunes made on the mistakes of major oil companies. I mean, and so I thought that there was chaos. I didn't know anything about the oil business. I had one oil client. One whole big oil client. That was it. That's enough for me.
J.R. Ewing was always my hero.
Yep. Well, they used to call me the J.R. of London. There's a lot of newspaper articles that referred to me as a J.R. And they didn't do it in the negative sense that because I was doing things that were disreputable. They did it because the guy always made it happen. J.R. always, you never think, J.R. never failed, did he? And I was a J.R. of London, boy. And and I did for a lot of years. I mean, everything I touched turned to gold. I mean, for a lot of years, for almost 10 straight, 10 years.
So oil's, it's down now, right? It's at the low end of its...
No, it's way back. It's up again. It's up about 40%. Yeah, there's not as much chaos in the energy industry as there once was. Now, there's chaos in different countries in the energy industry. South America, there's a lot of chaos. Russia, China, there's a lot of chaos. But I'm not interested. If I want to do something, I want to do something different. I'm not interested in doing something. I already know I know how to build an energy company. I know how to do that. I know how to build any company, so I want to do something different. And so that's why I've had many opportunities to get back in the energy business, but I'm not interested. I'm just not. I can make as much money, if not more. Plus, to the extent that I help Great Western prosper, I still have all those many millions of shares of the stock that I can help direct its destiny, because I talk to the CEO all the time and give him guidance. And so, at least so far, he's listening. We'll see what happens.
Was he one of your team?
No, he was one of the team that tried to cut my head off. He was always trying to cut my head off, and I was always successful in battering him down. He had a couple of the board meetings. He called for boardroom votes, but I always battered him down. But then the Kuwaitis brought in a chairman who was slicker than him. I don't know if he was slicker than me. I don't know if you could say Howard was slicker than me, but he ultimately replaced me. Because when a company that owns 40% of the company in a public company decides it's time for you to go, it's time for you to go. There's no choice. You have no choice. And but they didn't want to pay me. After I left, 2 weeks later, they said, well, we decided we're not going to give you that big golden parachute that we owe you. And I slapped the suit on them immediately. And the other thing about suits, these people that write letters, well, if we don't hear from you in 2 weeks, you slap their ass with a suit instantly. You don't screw around. Just like we did to that doofus piece of shit just recently. Yeah, I mean, because you know how many people get letters from lawyers that we're going to sue you and they don't get sued? I kick them right where it hurts instantly. You don't get a letter, we're going to sue you from me. You get a lawsuit. And then, we didn't mean that. And then you, and the plaintiff always has the best run, by the way. It's always better to sue than be sued. The reason the plaintiff in a jury trial gets 2 cracks at the jury. The plaintiff gets up and has their closing arguments, then the doofus defense gets up and does it, and the plaintiff gets up again. You got 2 cracks. And if you got a lawyer that's worth his salt, in fact, I was going to give the closing arguments in my big trial, then the judge told me I couldn't. She wasn't sure it was in the Constitution or something. To Texas or something crap. I was going to give my own closing arguments. I'm as good as my lawyers, not better. So you always sue. Don't wait.
So if somebody sends you a letter,
whap them.
You hit them over the head.
Yeah, you just whack it to them right quick. Because I mean, plaintiff has always got the advantage. It's got the advantage in filing and all the other junk.
Venue.
Yeah, venue. I mean, that's exactly right. Venue. I mean. That's right. I mean, because to me, litigation is a business tool. That's all it is. It's a business tool to make people honor contracts. Because I tell people right up front, I'll sue you quicker than you went to potty this morning when you got out of bed. I mean, if you don't honor your contract with me, I don't like to get jerked around. I spent a couple, $300,000 on a lawsuit over a $10 trophy that my wife won on a marathon race. Seems like a century ago. But had Judge Wapner, the TV judge, he was our judge. And I mean, I've sued over Great Danes. I've sued over boundary lines. I've sued over a lot of different things because it's important to me. I don't like to get jerked around. I don't like to get screwed around. I just don't. I mean, I won't. And this is before I had any money. I made that lawsuit long before I had any serious money. I didn't develop these character traits just when I got rich. I mean, I've had them.
That's why you're rich.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And most people, we've been conditioned. We're afraid of litigation. We don't want to, lawyers. Whenever I go to Virginia Country Club, Hoffman's not here now. He says, I hope to God, Dan, that Virginia Country Club never gets a copy of this. Because he says, but whenever I go to Virginia, every table in the grill, they're complaining about lawyers. Every single thing, it just gripes me. Because, lawyers this, lawyers that. Lawyers are a tool to be used effectively in running a business. It's that simple. Sometimes it's at a proactive way. Sometimes it's in an administrative way. In my place, it was never on a defensive way. I mean, and I've been in so many, I know the law pretty well. I mean, when you've been in court as many times as I have, like when Raul signed that, I couldn't believe Raul, the group of 4 of the guys that I'm working with, they signed some letter of intent on something, and one of them brought it by to me to look at, and I looked at it and I said, was Raul there? He's the Harvard lawyer, the young kid that was here. I said, he was there and you signed this thing? Yeah. He says, what's wrong with it? And I said, there's nothing right with it. What do you mean, what's wrong with it? And I says, Raul was sitting there when you signed this? He let you sign this? He says, no, he signed a copy too. I said, Jesus. I couldn't believe it. And but then he says, Fidel took the blame. He says, well, I was so hyped up, I was so enthusiastic, I got everybody to sign it. And I said, God. And that's good, because I'm trying to teach them how to be enthusiastic, and they were so proud, they thought I was going to be so happy with them. Then I said, well, we got to get out of this deal. So, but then we worked, and we role-played, and we went in there, and they signed a new deal, and they doofused the guy. They clipped a much more experienced group's wings. And these 4 guys, the amount of business acumen they've got, I mean, Dan Jr. is pretty sophisticated. My 8-year-old daughter's got more. But using it positively, it's just another tool.
Dan, I wanted to ask you, who was your mentor before you became wealthy?
Well, one of them is in the, I already had a few bucks when I met Mr. Ormond, but Mr. Ormond, who's in the back of the room, has been my mentor in the energy business, going on 20 years now. Costa Grazos, who I told you about, who was my general business mentor from Onassa Shipping Lines, and Jim Newman, get your head out, screwed on straight mentor. And those were my 3 mentors. I really didn't have any. I had a mentor in the military. I had a guy named General Roy Atterbury, West Pointer. His claim to fame, he graduated from West Point with the most demerits of anybody that ever went through West Point. Douglas MacArthur, General Robert E. Lee graduated with no demerits at West Point. This guy had the most demerits of anybody ever to get through West Point. And he was a decorated hero from the Korean War, and he had his leg all shot up, and he used to didn't button his blouse. He was a general. A general officer in the Constitution, by the Constitution, says a general can make his own uniform up. That's why Patton had all this junk he used to wear. Well, he used to keep his blouse open, his coat, and he used to drop cigar ashes and burn holes in his shirt and tie. And old Roy, Pena, where's Pena? Where's Pena? And he was a good guy, even though he was a slob. He was a good guy, and he's one of the reasons I wanted to stay in the Army, be a career officer. But, so he was kind of a mentor for me, and he helped me and said, Pena, keep your name Pena. We don't like Mexicans. He's from Texas. Mexicans, Army, we got too many Mexican officers as it is. How many we got, general officers? None. We got too many, like I said, none. He was from, I forget, someplace in Texas. He was a funny guy. But he helped. I had a mentor in school, Dr. Jim Bennett, who unfortunately couldn't make it because he was at some other conference. He helped me in school. He was the first guy to have faith in me that I was really brighter than my family thought I was. And he allowed me to take 26 units a semester to try to finish my degree in 2.5 years. 26 units load, which full load at that time was 12. And I went to 2 schools at the same time, UCLA and Cal State Northridge. And he had a lot of faith in me. He was a man. He's still a very good friend. He was one of the original board of directors at Great Western Energy as well. And he's been a mentor of mine and a good friend from a lot of years. And if he was here, he'd tell you Dan has not changed 1/10% since the 60s when I was in college. Haven't changed. The only thing is about my accomplishments have caught up with my mouth. That's write that down. That's a good one. My accomplishments have caught up with my mouth, and because they have, you know. Now in my career, I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I've been there, I've done that in spades. And I can answer your questions, I mean, because I've been there, I've done that. I mean, I haven't heard, and I've done this now, I don't know, 30 times, 35 times, and I've been in front of a lot of people. And even before this, and when I was doing it, when I was the CEO of Great Western, I've never been asked a question I couldn't answer. I've never been given a business situation that I haven't been in personally. I haven't. I mean, now the doctor might tell about an ankle surgery or something. I haven't been that, but starting that business, I know how to do that. Whether, you know, I know how to do that because I've done that. I've been with small business. I've been, you know, I've run big business, and I've run a lot of them. And I know that, so the things that I talk about, I can say with no qualifications or reservations. And more important, and I think more importantly than that, is that not just that I say it in a forceful manner, but I know what doesn't work, and that's more important than anything else I can tell you. What doesn't work, you know what works. A lot of things work for you now. It's what doesn't. I can tell you what doesn't work. Don't do this. I mean, because I've done that, or I've had friends that do it, done it that way, or Grazio's told me, and one person once asked me at a seminar a few months ago, well, just because Grazio said so, I mean, did you ever try it yourself? I go, nope. Why? Well, when the CEO of one of the largest companies in the world tells me that he tried this several times and it didn't work and it cost him $25 million or whatever, I just don't need to experience that. I mean, you know, I think I'm smart, but I don't think, you know, Onassis and Costa Grazos were pretty smart. They built a pretty big organization. And I just, you know, I don't have to, my ego is not that big that I need to try to say, well, I did something that Onassis failed at. I mean, because likelihood is that I'll fail too. So, I mean, I just don't need to go through that learning curve. See, sometimes, you know, when you tell a kid don't do that, he's going to get burned, he does it anyway. In business, you'll go to and listen to some of these people and you do it anyway. I could never understand why. Of course, look at me. Instead of making more refineries, I go in the movie business. I mean, I think I would have been better if I would have been in the movie business if I had been single. I didn't get any benefit out of being in the movie business because I was married, and Linda used to travel with me in those years because it was before we had kids. I mean, single in the movie business, you know, I don't know if it'd been worth $25 million, but I mean, so I mean, that's the benefit, and the things that you find yourself struggling with, hard to do, they're the same things all the audiences struggle with. We've been raised to have low expectations of ourselves, you know, and it's like we want our kids to go to a good school, at least the way, you know, I wasn't raised this way because I wasn't expected to go to any school, but then after that, especially in the minorities, after they go to the good school, and I'm not saying that education is mandatory, then there's no focus or no plan to get rich after going to a good school. They just leave it at that. You went to a good school. Well, what's the use of going to a good school if you're not going to do something with it? Unless you're going to, if you're going to teach. You know, I tried teaching one year and I couldn't take it because I got so frustrated with this youth of America. They were all going in the toilet. Yes, ma'am.
How many hours did you, when you first got your mentor, that you spent time with? About how many hours?
Jerry, how many hours a week or a month or did we used to spend when you were teaching me the all business? Excuse me.
Considerable.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with him. We used to have lunch all the time, play golf all the time. I used to...
It wasn't unusual to work 12, 14 hours a day.
Yeah, yeah, and when I was coming...
It was more than that.
Yeah, I used to fly to Dallas when his corporate headquarters was in Dallas and spend time with him, and to a lesser extent, then his youngest son, Ron, used to spend time with me, and because his father, and rightfully so, set him on this track, and it was the Wall Street track, NBA Wall Street track, and that's the track I came from. So I used to spend time. I remember being in Dallas with Linda having breakfast with young Ron and come over. I'm thinking of making this change, and I'm doing this, and Dad says I should finish my MBA at UCLA, and I said, your dad's right, and for him it was right. It was right, and he's doing very well. He's at Oppenheimer. I sat on next to him about a year ago on a plane, and I looked over, I said, God, that looks like Ronnie Orman, but he looks tired. And he said, yeah. And I said, he says, Dan, is that you? I says, yeah. He said, yeah, this is my third trip in 5 days, New York to L.A. I said, well, I've been that. I know how to do that. I said, you know, what you got to do is you got to have a couple drinks, go to sleep or whatever. And, yeah, so we spent a lot of time together. And...
Have you ever met Estee Lauder?
No.
No?
No, I haven't. I haven't. In the back of the room...
Dan, how did you buck the mafia?
Well, in 1982 or 3, we had a gentleman who will remain nameless to protect the guilty who sold one of our deals to the number 3 guy in one of the big mafia families in New York City, unbeknownst to me. And then when oil was $40 a barrel, it had letters of credit attached to it, so if the price of oil fell, the letters of credit were called. Needless to say, oil went from 40 to 20 like it had a rock on its neck. And so they were called, and the banks are calling this guy's accountants and said that, called, and he had bought personally $500,000, and he felt so proud about it, he went over to a cousin or a distant relative, one of the other mafia families, and they bought about $2 million of it. And so he said that, and the guy that sold it to him, he says, you don't have to worry. Well, now, when you tell somebody in a crime family you don't have to worry, it means that they're not going to lose any money. And so he flew out to see me in Los Angeles. I was in Scotland, and I get a phone call from Charlie Soliday, and he's whispering, Dan. I go, what? They're here. Why come speak up? What the hell's wrong? And he says, they're here. They want to talk to you. They want their money back. And I said, who's there? And he told me who it was. And I said, okay, I'll get in a plane. I left Scotland. I flew to Los Angeles. And so I walked in the room, and I walked in the conference room looking around. Where are they? They're in your office. They set up a shop in your office. In my office? Who told them they could? Anyway, so I go in there, and he looked like John Gotti. Short, portly guy, really well manicured, you know. And he gives me a big hug, and he says, what kind of name is Peña? And I says, well, and I told him, I says, but my grandfather, I'm 1/4 Sicilian, which I am, my mother's father. And he gives me another, it's too bad it's a not a half, you know, because I'm 1/4. And so, but we go out to dinner, and he leans up to me, and he says, and I lean across the table like in the old E.F. Hutton commercials. I said, yes. He says, I want my money. I said, I beg your pardon? He says, I want my money. I said, well, I can't give it to you. I mean, it's all pissed away. I mean, and he said, we had just gone public, thank God. And I said, I run a public company. I can't just write you a check. And he says, you're not listening to me. I said, I'm listening anyway. So we got crossways, so to speak. And funny things started happening, and we hired some people to protect us. And we sent some messages to them, which were received loud and clear. And he says, this guy's crazy. He says, he's doing to us what we do to people. And they said, the bearer of these messages, who Lorraine knows, said, he is crazy. He doesn't care. He's not giving you the money. He didn't think he did anything wrong. Make a long story short, he sued me for $144 million. And we fought it in the state court in Texas to the Supreme Court of Texas. And we fought it to the Supreme Court in New York. And we fought it to the 12th and 8th District Appellate Courts. We fought for 5.5 years. And the FBI and the various people that were investigating them used to say, this is the first time in history that these guys have gone to court. They've been sued plenty, but they never sued anybody. And they went around and strong-armed all the limited partners into being part of this suit as a class action. They didn't come and say, do you want to be part of the class action? They said, this is your amount, we need the check for your portion of it. And they sued us, and we won. We won in all the courts. And then he got indicted, thank God. And the
no horse heads in your bed?
Pardon? No. Well, we had some difficult times. But then during this whole process, I went to his restaurant. He owns a French restaurant in New Jersey. And why are you going to his restaurant? I said, because I want him to see that we're not afraid. He says, but Dan, we are. It's only that you're not. And so we went to his restaurant, Charlie, Mark, and I, and he came up and he saw me, and he comes up to me and says, you've got a lot of balls coming here. I says, food's not bad. He says, and then he went and he says, I don't want your money. He says, don't have dessert, get out. And so we didn't have dessert, we got out, but he's retired now. I mean, after he got indicted, and then when he got out of prison a year or so ago, or where, no, he didn't. Did he go to prison, Laurie? I don't remember. Yeah, he went to prison, yeah. Yeah, but that's how we did. But see, like I told you, at one time I would have taken a bullet for the company. Almost did. But because at that time, the pay price to action, I would have done anything. When I said anything, I meant anything. But, you know, we wiggled off that hook. But now and I've broken unions. I built a refinery in Lake Charles, Louisiana, non-union. And I mean, gun battles with mercenaries and all kinds of junk like that. And so when I go into these companies and say, we got a union problem, you know, where we were in the coal business was called Harlan County, Kentucky. It's called Blood County. That's where the unions got broke. I come in, they say we got union problems. I mean, I've dealt with, I know how to deal with unions. I mean, I know how to deal with organized crime. I mean, I've been under a probe by the federal probe by the state attorney, U.S. attorney, because some people we had done business with got indicted in South Carolina. And is that where Strom Thurmond's from? Yeah. Yeah, Strom. And I mean, the guy that represented Ollie North, Brendan Sullivan, was my lawyer, my criminal lawyer. If I was going to get in a criminal beef, you could bet your ass I was going to get the finest criminal lawyer that I could afford. And, you know, I was forced, we paid a lot of money, and the shareholders paid a lot of money, but the shareholders used to say, you know, Dan lives and dies by the sword. If we ride the hill up with him, we got to ride the hill down with him. And so we had plenty of that. So, I mean, there's nothing that can, I mean, I've had people leave their wives. I've had people plot to kill their wives. I mean, the other side. I mean, there's nothing in business or life that I haven't experienced growing these businesses. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I've had, you know, partners die, top employees die. God forbid, we've had children die. I mean, I've seen all this. I've seen all this. And so, to the extent, some of it I wish I hadn't seen, but I have. I've dealt with the Vatican. The Vatican screwed me in the only business deal I ever did with the Vatican. Costa Grazos, I think I've told this story to some of you, told me, he says, you got to get the $250,000 up front from the Vatican because they'll stiff you. You know, Catholic altar boy, I couldn't fathom that. And they stuck it, man, they stuck it up my backside. I mean, and I wound up having to put up the $250. I was in a joint venture with Imelda Marcos, Mobil Oil, Onassis Shipping Lines, the Vatican, and myself. And I put up the $250 for the Vatican because I didn't even check the letters of credit. I just assumed it would be there. I was dealing with Cardinal the guy that got in all the trouble for the Italian bank thing, whatever that guy's name. You know, I learned now, I mean, unless Christ, and he better be able to prove it to me he's Christ. You know, if Christ came down through the ceiling here with a halo and the thorns, he better have ID. You know what I mean? He better have ID. Otherwise, I mean, he better just have ID. Because, but I mean, you know, even big banks, Citibank has, you know, stuck it up me. Of course, Citibank would say I've stuck it up them more than they stuck it up me, but dealt with all these foreign countries, all these foreign governments, and always come out on top. So I got a lot, I mean, that's a wealth of experience. That's why people want to be my partner. That's the only reason that anybody should want to give me any equity in anything, and then I give it to you, I earn it. But I mean, these other guys, you heard me screaming, there's this lady that's a business development coach that is running around sending all these pamphlets out. Kellyanne, my 8-year-old daughter's got more experience than she does, and everybody's got a right to make a living. But I mean, and I think when you're talking about growing businesses, because what if you're, see, I'm going to be wrong. These people are going to be wrong more than I am. It's not fair to the people that put up the money. It just isn't. I mean, you deserve the best you can get. Now, you happen to get this inexpensively because we're testing a new price market. This isn't obviously the $10,000 deal. But I mean, it's essentially the same, you know, much of the same information. I mean, maybe 40 or 50% of what you covered here is in my $15,000 seminar. But but you've got the nuts and bolts, and you have the tools, and there's no excuse come Monday why you can't be a different business person. So I used to say businessman. See, look at how 90s I'm getting. Yeah, yeah. And there's no reason, because you've got those tools. Jerry Orman, I mean, who's been in business a lot longer than I have, since a long time ago. I mean, if somebody like Jerry was doing these kind of seminars, he'd be worth listening to. You'd garner so much, glean so much experience. It would be tremendous for you. But I mean, guys like Jerry aren't running around doing this. At least I haven't met anybody. If anybody in this room knows of anybody that's doing this, that has experience, that's anywhere near mine, let me know. I mean, they're just not. Yes, sir.
I think first or second day you were talking about interviewing people. When you hire them, you ask them questions like, are you gay, you got AIDS, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I ask all those.
Have you ever been sued for that?
No. No, I have. One time I got sued by a woman. Remember Maida Sarah, Linda? That girl that said that she, got raped on the hood of our car out in front of, and the guy that supposedly raped her just was here a little ago. There was no rape that went on. But I got sued. The only sexual harassment I've been sued, I've had 3 employees that said they got raped, not by me, but by employees, but they sued me because I made the environment conducive to rape or some shit. Yeah, which I didn't, we beat those. I mean, those were easily, they just wanted to be paid off. But those are the only 3 type sexual harassment suits I've ever been involved.
So when you're asking these questions, I mean, what do people do? I mean...
You know what they say? Yes, I am gay. No, I'm not. No, I'm HIV positive, negative. That's how they answer. I've never had anybody say, I don't have to answer that. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out then, youngster.
Okay.
You say you ask religion. Does that...
No, well, no. If we come in with a Buddhist that can't work, we come, first of all, you shouldn't be coming to interview with anybody in my organization. You come in dressed like that. And it's not that we're against them but I mean, that's not how we dress. You know what I mean? Or you come in like that crazy stuff. Who's the convicted killer the King? No. Who's the fight promoter that's a convicted murderer, the black guy?
Don Tyson.
Yeah. No, Don King's a convicted murderer. Yeah. You come in dressed like when he wears all that crap, that he wears with his hair. I mean, you ain't gonna get the job. I don't care if you're the most qualified guy that walks the face of the earth. You're just not getting the job. You don't fit in the mold. I can't see you sitting in my living room with hair that goes up like this and all that African garb on. I mean, that ain't gonna do it. And it's not that I'm bigoted or biased. It just, I'm not gonna be flying from here to London with you, sitting in first class. It just ain't gonna happen. You know, just as if you come with a sombrero and a serape and the shit, tacos, that ain't gonna happen. You ain't gonna be working for me, you know?
What do you think of Don King's business practices?
I think that they're probably corrupt. Yep. Yep, I think so. I think that...
He does whatever it takes.
Yeah, he does whatever it takes, but I mean, he steps over, you know, he steps over the line. I mean, pardon? Yep, I met him at the Tyson, the first or second fight that Tyson had at the Caesar's Palace. Yeah, I have met him. Yeah, and I'm trying to think who Tyson knocked out in the second round, that big guy.
Michael Spinks?
No, before that. Yeah. No. I know Larry Holmes, too, but he's a nice man. Larry's a nice guy. I hope he doesn't get hurt in this next fight. Somebody, Ruben?
Mark and I were asking before, all the people you mentioned, sorry. Of all the people you mentioned before in terms of high-performance people and people who make money, and you were asked a question about Don King, but we were wondering if what's your opinion of Steve Wynn and...
You mean the guy,
the gambling?
The gambling guy?
Yeah.
Well, he's a smart guy. I don't know about his business practices. I don't know about that, but I know he's a smart guy, and he's put together a lot of big deals, and they all told him you can't build a 5,000 room, you can't build a 3,000, you can't, and he continues to do it. So, I mean, he's pretty much, I think Las Vegas is a good example of going against conventional wisdom. A 1,000-room hotel wasn't supposed to work there.
Thinking you could gamble in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he cares? I mean, he doesn't care what anybody thinks. He does what he thinks. Or he does what, 2 or 3 people that he works closely with. Kerkorian, he's another psycho. He doesn't care. I mean, he lost $600 million on one of his recent deals, and he doesn't care,
He built MGM Grand.
Yep, and Kirk is a good client of Bear Stearns. He has been for a long, long time. But Bear Stearns wouldn't underwrite his last deal. So he went to somebody else after 19 years of doing deals there. Now, whoever made that decision, I'm sure got blown out of Bear Stearns, no question. I can't imagine they would have done that. The guy's paid hundreds and billions of dollars in fees. That guy, that young 30-year-old Harvard MBA managing director had a short career on Wall Street. That guy is history. I mean, and nobody will hire him because anybody's got that piss-poor judgment, nobody's going to want him. Obviously, the Kerkorian deal was a huge success. But he did not do the deal just because Bear Stearns told him not to. He went someplace else and did it very successfully. You mean they believe in God? Yeah. No. I don't know any of them that are agnostic, but I don't think that you'd call them seriously spiritual. They're about as spiritual as I am. Pardon?
He was supposed to be buried.
Well, I didn't know him. It's a little before my time. Huh? You got to use the mic. Now let's stop with this crap, okay? But all these guys, by the way, swear. And that's why I swear in my seminars most of the time. Because this is what business is like. And if the women want to get with the program, it's like the number, I'm trying to think if it's the one lady CEO of Fortune 500. She told them an example that when she was a chief financial officer, they were talking about giving bonuses, and this guy, her boss, said, well, I'd like to give this bonus to this little cutie pie because she's got a nice ass, he said to her. And this is in like Newsweek magazine. And so when they came around and they were talking about the people she wanted to give bonuses, she says, yeah, I'd like to give, and they all said, oh, that guy doesn't need a bonus. He says, yeah, I'd like to give that guy a bonus because he's well hung. And yes, and she's saying this to Newsweek. It's not a story. She's saying it. And I said, I guess, well, I know why she's the only Fortune 500 CEO. But there are not many women like that, I can assure you. I've only read about it. I've never heard one. No woman business that I've ever dealt with one exception, has ever used talk like that. I mean, I never, yeah, especially the Newsweek, I mean, but she's supposed to be really rough and tumble, a rough and tumble lady.
I think it was the first day we were here, you were saying that most people fish with fishing poles and you fish with nets.
No, I said most people fish with their finger down in the water with no bait on it, and they expect the fish to jump up on their finger.
Yeah.
Some people fish with a hook down there and no bait. Some fish with a hook with bait. Some fish with a fishing pole, and I fish with nets.
And then you said you're changing your strategies from what you used to.
Well, no, what I said was the mouth from the South, Ted Turner, when I heard him say to me a couple years ago, Dan, my daddy left me two things when he died. $2 million, which took him 51 years to make. And number two, he left me with the idea that, Teddy, don't set goals that you can achieve in your lifetime. And I said, that's changed my way of thinking. It's given me a new lease on life vis-a-vis what I want to do, as much as I've already accomplished. I've only scratched the surface. That's how it's given me a change in my strategy going forward. And in part of that strategy, and the young men that I'm doing business with now are benefiting from that, because I probably wouldn't have had the foresight to turn over operations to as young and inexperienced men that I do now. I probably wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have been willing to take the chance. See, I would have looked at it that way instead of giving myself a chance. But now I can do 5 or 6 times more than just monitoring 2 or 3 people or 2 or 3 projects personally. So it's really given me the opportunity. And so that's how I've changed, because I fully expect Fire Resources to go beyond my lifetime. I mean, kick DuPont's ass and spin-offs and all kinds of things from that. And there's other things that I'll be doing with the other young men that I'm working with. And and it's interesting, they're only young men. I haven't found any young women, and I'm not saying that I'm looking for them, but I haven't found any. And but then there's not that many young women, or middle-aged or old women, for that matter, that are willing to pay that price that I need to see. I need to see that. I need to see John Mosby said, "Yeah, I'm going to get married in a few days, but I'll have my ass there." I need to see that. You know, it's got to pass the doofus test. And I'm, you know, and I shouldn't say this in closing because this is kind of a ratty thing to say, but in my 24 years in business, with all the successes I've had, I've never had a man say that he couldn't close a deal because when his mother died, or because, you know, when he had a vasectomy. I've been in a lot of deals with women. I got to have a hysterectomy. I got to have this. My mama died. I got to go be with her. I never heard a man, ever, in all my life, say that. And yet I've heard it many times from women. That's why there's not more women Fortune 500 CEOs. Because I assure you, that bitch that's running that one company, the company's called Wanako, or I forget what the name of the company is. I mean, I don't think she'd be you spending much time at her mama's funeral. I just don't think so. I don't think she'd be.
Nice way.
What?
That bitch in a nice way.
Of course. Yeah, of course. See, pardon?
Ms. Bitch.
Ms. Bitch. And so I just don't think so. And, you know, what's that? My mother says, a daughter's a daughter the rest of her life, a son's a son until he takes a wife. You know, yeah. And, you know, old school, you know. But, so that's why. But I've seen that commitment in young men, not just young men, but in men, many more men than I have ever seen it in women. Any other questions? Thank you very much. I don't know if Ed still wants anybody that will give it, you know, talk on the film. The answer is yes. If you do that, I'd appreciate it. I'm going to be probably doing this. Not probably. I'll be doing this a number of times next year. I've got a couple more appearances this year. I think one in we still doing that Las Vegas and San Diego thing?
We're not doing Las Vegas, and San Diego probably.
Yeah. So Thank you very much. Go out there and rip them.